Interesting thought process.
That's a great question. Oh, that's really hard. Oh my God, I didn't realize it was going to be like this.
Wow, that's a good question.
Another good but difficult question.
Welcome to Casual Conversations with your host, Mike Oppenheim.
Hey everybody, this was a really interesting episode of Coffin Talk, so I've decided to give it exclusively to my premium subscribers. If you're into aliens and UFOs and astral projection, this one is definitely for you.
Hello everybody, this is Mike Oppenheim, and you are listening to Coffin Talk, interviews with the living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. This week our guest is Preston Dennett. He began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he found out that his friends, family, and coworkers were having dramatic encounters. He is the author of 32 books and more than 100 articles on the subject, and his last 10 books have all been Amazon UFO bestsellers. So welcome to the podcast, Preston. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. So I have a lot of questions to unpack just from like your short few answers, which is awesome. I think the first thing I want to tackle is skepticism / there are actually charlatans and liars out there, because this is something I deal with. I wrote a novel recently about psychics, and I visited as research a lot of them, and I found like two that I would actually like stick my neck out for, and I would tell people, no, I really think this person does something that most of us either could do but don't know how to, or just seriously can't. But at the same time, there were a lot of people who I was like, no, you're cold reading, you're intuitive, you're like a lot of words, but you're not actually a psychic, yet you are taking money and charging people for it. So I'm curious, do you ever stick out your neck for other fields now that you're embedded in a field where people say, oh, Preston Dennett, he's a UFO believer, don't believe anything he says, that crowd, that I would say consensus crowd in American culture at least. Do you feel like other areas that you don't really care about or wouldn't believe in normally, do you now like look at them differently?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I found myself drawn into studying ghosts very shortly after finding out UFOs were real, because I started developing my interview skills and basically just asking people, have you had any, quote, unexplained experiences?
Cool. And
they started to tell me about a wide variety of paranormal events, everything from, Bigfoot, levitation, out-of-body experiences, ghosts, of course, precognition, dreams that come true, near-death experiences. And to an extent, I think all of these subjects are related to a degree. So ultimately, I started interviewing people on a wide variety of subjects and really diving deep into all of it, which I find super interesting. And here's a weird thing. Finding out UFOs were real was such a shock that it actually made me more skeptical. I had to look at the world in a whole new way and really question everything. So I really had to develop my skills to sort of determine what's true and what's not. Because like you said, there are a lot of charlatans out there, and the field of UFOs is filled with disinformation and misinformation, and so is the realm of psychics and all of this stuff. It was difficult. Yeah.
I definitely see eye to eye with you, because I've been hosting this podcast for more than 2 years now. And I went into it as hey, let's just interview every single person who seems interesting about what they think happens when you die, which, spoiler alert, is going to be the next question I'm going to ask you if you want to start preparing. And as I did it, I got more and more into stuff like you said, but I also started to get more and more skeptical, because I started to see that there's like businesses and people like, dying to get attention, and especially on the internet in this new era, like say the headline first and do the research later, if at all. So it's really interesting to me. Your answer was perfect. And you literally named like a third of what this podcast ends up interviewing, which are people in all those fields. And I do think they're related. And what's even funnier to me is I actually feel like they're related under the umbrella of what is your interpretation of life, why you're here and living. So this podcast puts a little bit of a twist on that, because we don't ask people what is the meaning of life. We feel like that's a preposterously vague and weird question to ask people, but we do ask people, and I'm asking you now, what do you think is going to happen to you specifically when you die?
Hey everyone, that's it for the free version of this podcast. If you want to hear the full one, just head over to mikeyop.com and become a premium subscriber. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks for listening.